Hello, everyone. How you doing? And you're very welcome to this week's CASTLEREA Cavaliers basketball podcast with myself, Aidan Raftery, and of course, as always, we have Thomas Callaghan. Hello, Thomas. How are you? Are you well?
I'm good, Aidan. Thanks for having me back, and can't wait to catch you up on everything we got up to at the weekend at CASTLEREA basketball.
No problem. Thanks very much. It's great to have you as always. Yeah. So we'll kick off, I suppose, with the men's, and you had a great victory at the weekend, which is great. And I suppose it's just a matter of building on that, taking aside, having a look at the things you did well, and maybe you know learning from the other things maybe that you need to kind of fine tune or whatever.
Yeah, we had a solid victory. It was good to get a home victory where we were happy with a lot of things and that we established a decent lead and we kind of held on to it right through the game. Athlone, they were down a few lads. They were missing lads because they had under 20 National League game on, so a few of their young lads were at that. And we were missing a few as well. To be fair, Danny Darcy was out; he has a calf injury, and David Quinn was away out of the country. So both teams were kind of undermanned, but I think we managed well. Obviously, David Quinn is a big loss inside with his height and his fight and athleticism, but I think me and Joseph Henry kind of picked up the slack for him down there, and Joe Fleming was also a big factor in just maintaining our presence in the under the basket, because that's where they look to do their damage. They had two big lads, and that they knew what they were at down there. But I think we managed them fairly well, and kind of limited them to kind of mid-range shots rather than letting them get to the baskets. And for me and Joseph being a bit undersized in there, that was just a matter of moving our feet, getting good position, and making sure they were shooting over our heads rather than just getting open layups at the basket. And then Joe Fleming and the rest of us were able to pull down the rebounds off those misses and get out in the fast break. So I was really happy with that, just defensive discipline and work ethic to kind of marshal that size mismatch that they sort of had. Offensively, we did well. We moved the ball well. I started well scoring wise. I knocked down a good amount of shots in the first quarter. I think I had 13 points by the end, which is a fairly good output. And then Joseph Henry took over. We had him playing inside. Um, and he looked like his old self. He had a wrist surgery at the start of this year, and he's kind of been kind of building himself back up to his kind of just finding his touch and getting his rhythm back. And the last day he had 31 points, in three quarters, I think.
Yeah,
So
not a bad
he was
comeback.
flying it. Yeah, he was flying it. And down the years he's been our kind of go-to guy for scores. I always say,
Mm.
um, well, I've been saying since the game, when if the situation where I get 30 and he gets 15, it probably shows that we're relying on me shooting too much from the outside. But if he scores the 30 and I get the 15, it's probably a sign we're doing something right because he's getting in around the basket for more high percentage shots. So yeah, he was flying it, and just his mid range game, when he gets going, and I think the most of the league have experienced it or been on the wrong side of it, where you just can't really, it's just automatic for him scoring in there. So he got going and he had 31. So hopefully, we can expect that from him or something close to it from him for the rest of the season. And he can put a few games back to back where he's playing at that level that he has been at for in years gone by. Um, Outside of that, just good, solid performances all around. We were down a few men, so our young lads are doing the mocks as well, TJ and Demantis, so we were missing them. So we were do I think we had eight, and everybody got solid minutes, and everybody came in and did their job, and had good moments, So it's good again that I can rely on the guys to come in when called upon, and Athlone are going fairly well in the league, so it's not like we just beat a team we should have beaten, or should expect to win. They're going fairly well. They're high up there, third or fourth. They were second for a while, so it's good just to prove it to ourselves that we are able to mix it up with the higher up the league after the rough start we had. And yeah, I was really happy with it. Sean McDermott as well, especially when we got stops. Sean was excellent on the fast break, getting out for his layups like he typically does, and just leading that um, uh, facet of our game, getting us out in the fast break. So all around great performances, and just really happy to get a solid win in front of our home supporters, who were, as always, they were excellent. and just to like reward them for getting down with a good performance and a solid win.
That's it, and I suppose like this is your second your second win of the season, and I know like there was a lot of matches where maybe things didn't go your way, and then there was other matches where things did go your way, but you just couldn't get over the line, and get those elusive wins maybe in other games. But I suppose at this stage, because you already had a win going into this game, and you got a win last weekend. It's starting to feel now that things are maybe starting to fall into place as regards to every time you get a win, there seems to be more and more things falling into place. I mean, both we say tactically and maybe the people coming in off the bench as well. That they're we say they're improving with every game as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just the kind of fresh view of our offense in this half of the season has just given us, everybody kind of knows what we want to do, what we want to achieve on offense, and it just feels good. When you're scoring, you're feeling good, and when you're scoring well, you want to defend well so you can get the ball back to score well again. So it all feeds into each other, and yeah, it's just the fresh look of the offense. Even when we don't run it exactly as it's drawn up, it's just ball movement and everybody getting a touch, and we're getting good shots. So yeah, it's definitely feel good, especially when you get your reward with a win like we did against Longford and now against Athlone. That you can sense a bit of confidence coming back into the group. Um, especially, and then when you have your scorer in chief, Joseph, putting up points like that again, it just kind of lifts the mood a bit. That okay, somebody we can rely on for scores is kind of looks like he's getting back into form. So, just little things, offense going well, boys performing well. The kind of desire to work on defense comes with that feel good factor. So that's all coming back into it now when you win. So it's amazing how it works, and it can swing around. And like I said, boys coming off the bench, feeling good and feeling confident coming in. Michael Henry, who at this first half of the season kind of might have struggled a bit, it was already fast from, he's used to, I remember in school, he was the guy for his team. He's a few years younger than his brother Joseph. He used to just put the head down and go blow by everybody and finish and get 30 points in a game. But it's a bit different when you're in this league when everybody knows how to defend and stuff. So he just needs to pick and choose his moments. And I think he had 6 or 8 points in the second quarter, when he came on at the weekend, just because he knows his place in the offense. He knows when the opportunities are going to be there for him to score or for him to drive. He has a really strong driving game. He had one lovely one dribble pull up jump shot from the mid range on Saturday. So that just goes to show his confidence is coming back, and his basketball IQ and his knowledge of how he can contribute to the offense is coming. So, and that'll happen for a lot of guys, once we kind of continue to get better in this offense, and everybody kind of can pick and choose where they're going to have opportunities to contribute. So yeah, things are feeling good, and hopefully we can carry the feel good factor and the current form, I suppose, into this weekend.
And would you say as well that from that win as well, that you're maybe able to change tactics or change approaches, or maybe plan A, plan B, and plan C, and kind of implement it seamlessly, because every player knows what if you at certain points, if you have to change throughout a game from plan A to plan B or plan B to plan C or back, that they can do it comfortably, and that everyone knows their job and where to be. I suppose it's it's been in the right place at the right time, and the reading of the game as well, and that's probably that comes with the wins as well. And I suppose nearly able to find people without even with your eyes closed, that's another sign of a good team as well.
Yeah, definitely. Once we kind of get into an offensive motion, like the one we run, and once everybody's kind of comfortable with it at its base level, then you can start making variations of it. You might say, oh, instead of cutting at this point of the offense, you might set a screen, or instead of getting to the other side, you might just plant and cut back to where you came from to get open. Just little things like that. I know there's one phase of it where the high post, when we're swinging the ball right to left or left to right, whatever it may be, will set a screen just on the ball. But like throughout the last game, it just came clear that we were kind of parking the screen element of it and just passing it straight into that high post. And that happened to be Joseph, and we got so many points off it. So, we can change it up, once everybody's comfortable with like the base level of it. And then if things aren't working when you change it up, or if it gets too technical, you could just fall back and run it as it is, just little things like that. You can go away from the um, setup, but then always fall back to it if things do get a bit mixed up, or if things aren't working out. You can just fall back on, the established instructions for the offense. So, it is good to have that confidence, and um, and you can feel the know-how, and boys are coming up with different ideas themselves on what to do in different situations. And yeah, like you said, knowing everybody knows their own role, knows where to be, knows their own spacing, and they know where their options are. So every time they catch the ball, they know their first option is the guy who's cutting to here, and then their second option might be the guy who's cutting to here, or third option might be to put it on the floor and try and score themselves. So and that just comes with the more you build on it, the more you do it and play it in games and do it in training. Boys just get more used to it and see what works and see what doesn't work. So I feel like tactically and in terms of the X's and O's of it, it's definitely, and we went back to the drawing board, and it's kind of paid off in that way because we are getting better offense off it.
And I suppose from a point of view of the opposition, were they kind of very kind of defensive? I know it's kind of a different thing to soccer or hurling or that, but were they defensive, or were they defensive, or were they able to mix it up as well, or did you think that maybe they were more attacking and then you were able to get them on the break? How did you find that side of Athlone?
They were strong inside, and I think whenever we took Joe Fleming out of the game, we played a bit of man-to-man defense, where everybody just picks up somebody. Um, and whenever Joe Fleming came out of the game, they were able to like capitalize on that because they just go to the mismatch. Whoever went on for Joe would probably be undersized a bit too much, and they were able to just make it a 1v1 matchup and score well. Whether it be me, Toddy Kersoulis came in, Joseph Henry as well had moments where we were just mismatched, So I think that's where they kind of identified our weakness, especially when Joe Fleming was off the court, just to be that defender of the rim in the paint, So I think they utilized their size advantage for their benefit a lot through the game, and their perimeter game. Then they had Mel McGurr on the ball, who's he's a veteran in the league. He used to play for Longford down the years, and he's just an excellent, wise, point guard, and he shoots the three. He's always torched us from the 3-point line for years and years. So, and he's always a threat from the perimeter, and he knocked down a few threes in this one as well.
And how do you deal with him then, or how did you deal with him then on the night?
Well, I suppose Mel, he's been around for a long time, so you just kind of chase him off the 3-point line a bit. Obviously, he's not as quick as he once was, so he's like, once you do kind of make him dribble around you, he doesn't get to the rim as quick, or he has to pass it. That being said, he did get to the paint a few times and like just dish a pass and get his big guys to the basket. So, but it was just marshalling them. We got through screens well, because we were playing man to man. We just talked a lot. The big thing about playing man to man is communication. And if somebody hits you with a screen, you have to call the switch, or you have to tell your teammate that you can get through it. And we did that very well. So he didn't get open for three a lot. And like I said, we chased him off the 3-point line and made him put it on the floor as much as we could. So I think we limited him fairly well in that sense. I think he would have definitely benefited from having his under 20 guys around him, so he could have dished to the perimeter and get them driving lanes with their speed. But they didn't have them, so that worked out well in our favor. But their strengths were definitely the size mismatch inside, which I think there was periods of the game where it worked very well from them, but I think overall we worked it fairly well. Either doubling up on the player when he got the ball in the post, or making sure we had Joseph or Joe in that position to guard the big guys.
And moving on to the next game coming up, could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so we've Mayo at home this weekend. We're playing on Sunday. Um, we moved it to Sunday just because I think it suited us a bit more
Mm.
to have all our full squad, or at least more of our squad available. So Sunday at home against Mayo, they're going to be tough. They're going well. They're second in the league. Um, the last game we played against them down in Castlerea, we actually did okay for 3 quarters and into the fourth, and they pulled away in the end for 17 or 18 points, something like that victory. Um, but I'd still think off that we felt like we had good moments in that game and we can put it up to them. They're going to be very strong inside, and just well balanced. They're going to be strong outside as well. Let's face it. But I think with the confidence in on our backs now and the wind at our backs, we can go into it with a quiet sense of confidence that we can really give them a game and maybe steal a victory. Um, yeah. So, and I know hopefully we'll have boys back available. I know David Quinn should be back for this one. TJ Hannon had 13 points against these guys in 1 quarter down there in the first half of the year. So he always seems to have a good game against them because he played well against them in last season as well. So hopefully we'll have TJ back for it. And yeah, we'll give it a go crack. I think we're in a good place to now face one of the stronger teams in the league after getting a solid win behind us. And it's another home game. So hopefully we'll have our supporters down and they can get behind us and push us on for the win.
That's it. And you were saying there, was it last week or the week before, you were saying Joe Henry was reffing a game, but was it between them and Ballina? So
Mm-hmm.
he would have seen, he would have learned a lot from that match, seeing what Mayo are like. So what can you, from what he was able to tell you, I suppose, what will you be able to use? I suppose both in team selection and how he play against this side.
Yeah, well, I suppose I haven't really talked to Joe about them yet, but I
Mm.
suppose I think the whole kind of league knows they're just well balanced. They have two strong post players to start. They have good shooters. They have guys who are able to bring the ball up and drive to the lane, make shots. They're going to be physical. Um, so yeah, I'll have to talk to Joe and see has he any
Mm.
scouting done on them, see if he has any more information. But again, we're not going to get carried away, because I think our big thing is to focus on ourselves and our own performance, and I
Just
think
build
that's
on
where we
the
were.
win, yeah. Just build on the
Mm,
last win, yeah.
yeah, of course, because I think that's where we were kind of going wrong in sort of the
Mm.
mental approach to the first half of the season. We were just very worried about the opposition's personnel or the opposition's how they play this, that, and the other, and how we do. And then we were either going into games expecting to win,
Mm.
or we were going into games expecting to lose. So I think this half of the season, the big thing is just to expect a performance out of ourselves and expect good defense and expect execution of our offensive strategies. So yeah, we know a lot about Mayo. We know we're going to have to be physical and really match them for that physicality and pace of the game. But again, yeah, we're going to focus on ourselves and our values of moving the ball, and obviously trying to facilitate Joseph to kind of keep this scoring um, streak going if we can get one started for him. So yeah, we know a lot about them, but we're going to focus on ourselves.
That's it, and that's a wise approach as well. And moving on to the ladies, unfortunately, it didn't go as well for them at the weekend, but a good performance. So they always the one thing with the girls is they always give you their heart, and they're I suppose able to self analyze and know where they went wrong, and then kind of put it right. You enjoy coaching them.
Yeah, definitely, they're a great group, and it's a good challenge, to like because we're probably underperforming a little bit with the personnel we have. If you looked at the roster, the panel at the start of the year, you'd say we were in with a shout at the league. But then like week to week, it's like I know Sasha Lavin gave us big minutes on Sunday, but she had played for Roscommon Ladies against Armagh, so for the full game. So into the second half, you could see her. She was kind of tiring out. Sarah Tyrrell as well played the full game in the post. Because we don't. It's unfortunate we can't get a rotation for the inside those post player spots. Because we have Abby Flanagan, Ellie Mulrennan on the roster, but they're going into their leaving cert mocks, so we were without them. And Lisa and Aoife O'Rourke, obviously you can't rely on them week to week because they've got so much going on. But that's a 6-person rotation that each game we're kind of down to one or two. And in that list I've said there's some great athletes. Obviously with the O'Rourkes, but Abby and Ellie as well. Like just a bit of size, a bit of fight, to just keep the legs fresh. Because in this one I think we paid for it a bit in the fourth quarter when the Longford team we played are a very young team. They're all around, I'd say, under 20 or 21. So I think the legs kind of caught up with us in the end because they were able to get out on a lot of fast break scores, or we had a lot of fast breaks where the player was isolated. So just getting the numbers down and dates suiting everybody is a challenge. But I always say we go what you have. And I was happy with the team we had there. We were down to 7, but we had some experience. We had Sandra Kane, Kerry Harkin was still there, 2 leaders of the team. And they played fairly well. The defense was good. We played a 2-2-1 defense. We changed it up a bit because I felt against Drumlish we kind of sat back a bit and made them shoot, and we kind of paid for it. So this one we played a 2-2-1 just to push that one up to the ball a bit more and pressure them, and it worked very well, particularly in the second bank of 2, where you have to really get across over and back to the wings positions to get on the shots. And then the back 2 were Sasha and Sarah for the most part were left just to protect the rim and gobble up rebounds. And I think we did that fairly well. Early in the game and throughout the game, really. We switched to a 1-3-1 then, wasn't really working. They were able to drive and get through the gap. So we switched back, and the 2-2-1 is definitely something we'll look at more in the future, just because it has that 3 banks of players, and it can put pressure on, the wings and the top on the point guard. Against Drumlish, we sat into a 3-2, and it's just that 2 banks, and you're sitting off the ball handler a bit. So it worked pretty well, and it's definitely something we'll look at in the future. And it's something we hadn't really worked on specifically before, and everybody kind of adapted well to it. So I was happy with that. And we kept pulling away. We had 8, 9 point leads, throughout the game, and we could just never consistently score enough. I think we had all the opportunities. The offense was a lot better than the Drumlish game. The Drumlish game we were kind of disjointed, had a few turnovers, and then against last weekend against Longford, we moved the ball well and got good shots. We got as well we got out in the fast break, but a lot of times we just couldn't finish, and the big thing I think in this one was shot making. Longford, it's very clear that the girls have been practicing shooting, because anytime they were left open from mid-range, any opportunity, so there was some sickening defenses or possessions where we'd play good defense and they'd miss a shot and we just wouldn't get the rebound. We'd knock it loose and there'd be a scramble for the ball and it'd just end up in one of their girls' hands and she'd pop in a shot and swish it. And, it's like you've played this excellent defense and it just doesn't go your way. They still get a shot off and a good shot. So there was a good few instances like that. And, it's similar. Once they kind of stayed in the game, once they kind of got to the third and fourth quarter and we're still within 7-8 points, similar against Drumlish, the team that maybe is the underdog or the less fancied kind of is like, hold on a second, we have a shot here. And I thinks that's what happened, and shot making leads to momentum. Like I said earlier, it's all kind of connected in terms of momentum. And we'd have a great defense, get out in the fast break, and then we'd miss the layup. And then like that's such a killer, because you're like, that should be a dead cert 2 points, but it's coming back the other way on top of you, so, and they'll probably score, and then that's a 4-point swing. And we had a few instances of that where we'd have a great possession and just wouldn't be able to finish it off, and then they'd come down and get a 2 points or whatever. So it was tough in that regard. Sarah Tyrrell scored well inside. She's always going to score no matter what system or position you play her in. She's just a great finisher inside, and she attacks the hoop aggressively. She got to the free throw line a lot. So, she had a good performance from her. Sandra Kane and Sasha had 9 points each, Sasha Lavin. So they scored well enough, but I think there was other opportunities they had to maybe bump up those scores a bit. that would have maybe driven us on to a win, and not just to get the 3 points back that we lost by, but at moments where we score and it's momentum play. So we get a good defense, run down the other way, score the layup. And all of a sudden our tails are up and their heads are down. And then if you do it a few possessions in a row, sure, we would have pushed on to maybe a 15 or 20 point lead, but it just never happened. At the start of the third quarter, we held them scoreless for 3 minutes, and we played great defense and just could not punish them down the other end. And that was the frustrating part, because everything I asked for as a coach was happening. Girls were working, we were moving the ball well, we were trusting each other, we were running the offense well, but it was just the shot making, and just in the moments where we couldn't make a shot, they'd make one. And then it came down the stretch, they went up, I think, by 8 or 9 in the last 2 minutes. But then we got 2 steals and pulled it back to 3, so we were in with a shout. I had ran out of timeout, so couldn't just call a timeout when we needed one right at the end, and that's kind of the beauty of it, I suppose, to save your timeouts. Maybe a bit of inexperience on my part, but so we had a shot at it at the end, but just couldn't get the ball in the right situation to get a 3-pointer up to tie it up. So, but credit to Longford, they were excellent. They seen the opportunity to steal the win and they took it. And they're a nice. There's a lot of belief in that group. They're maybe not as big and strong as a lot of teams, but they still attack the paint, and there's a lot of girls there skilled. They're able to do a Euro step around players. They have good finishing and obviously very good shooting, and they've showed it against us. So credit to them, and we'll just have to dust ourselves off and go on to the next one. We play Sligo at home in 2 weeks' time, so that'll be a tough one. Sligo, they're after beating Mohill, the league leaders. Mohill were 8 wins and no losses up to last weekend, and Sligo beat them. So it doesn't get any easier for us, but I think with a bit of resolve and just practice at finishing, I think that's what we're going to focus on in the next few training sessions, and hopefully get just a lot of finishing practice done. Because if we play like we did the last day and just finish a few more opportunities at big moments, I think we could be well in with a shout of getting an upset against Sligo.
That's it, and it's a game that we're going to cover next week anyway. But I suppose just to finish off about the girls, the one thing that probably pleases you as a coach is, during the game, if they fall behind, or maybe even if they lose a game, they're a very positive group, and their mental strength is good, and that's key, because sometimes with teams, if they lose a game, or if they're going behind in a game, the heads can drop and they can become very negative. But that doesn't seem to happen with this group of girls.
Yeah, and it's something we addressed. It's been a bit of a challenge this year, getting a bit of togetherness, because we had new girls coming in, and it's something we addressed before this game, just to stick together and keep positive. You win together and you lose together, and it felt a lot better in this one. So just in timeouts and stuff, there was more sort of, we felt more like a team, where everybody was listening to the one voice, me, and we'd go off my instruction, and and I trust them. It's keep going, because we played well, and it's frustrating when you're doing good things and you're just not finishing off the offenses. But I trust them, like, keep going, and they will. I know nobody's going to decide to play hero ball, or deviate from the team's kind of plan. So I just kind of told everybody after, I still definitely believe we can cause a few upsets in the remaining games and still qualify for the top 4. Because it's in this team, and we're going to start going into games with more togetherness now, and you see it in the offenses. The ball is moving quicker, girls are trusting each other more, and hopefully that'll stand to us. And with a bit more finishing practice, it'll lift the mood a bit. Like I said, scoring covers over a lot of bad things. So you finish those offenses and things are feeling good. And we'll be right there. So yeah, definitely the positivity, despite 2 bad results in a row. We're going to still go into games with belief, and
quite rightly so,
hopefully
as well. And
get us back into the top 4.
You did mention there that there is still a stab at the at the top four, which is great. And I mean, that's the essence, that's the key for this group of girls. And that's, that feeds into the positivity for the girls, that there is, right, they might have lost those 2 games, but there is that they can still make that the top four, and succeed from there, which is great. And that's really what you need at those, because I suppose, in certain matches against certain opposition and the quality of the opposition, it's the little things that can tip the scale one way or the other, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And hopefully with girls coming back in, we were down a few girls were away at the weekend as well. So hopefully with a few girls coming back, it can add to that, the atmosphere, and and get a bit of a rotation going. We were missing Katie Murphy, who's been a good shot maker for us all season. Chloe Finan as well is always energy off the bench and can shoot a three as well, who was missing. So um Khalees Curran as well, who's been having a great season, hurt her ankle playing football. So we were without her as well. So despite being down players and despite being down the players I mentioned earlier, I, we're still happy, and there was still a belief, with the players we had. Obviously, like Sasha, excellent lab, an excellent athlete. Sarah Tyrrell, the players we had on the night, excellent. I'd go into any game with that 7 players, but I think the positivity will come back, and with players coming back on board, and hopefully just that atmosphere and energy can push us on to a few wins.
That's it, and the best of luck in that. As I said, we'll cover that in more detail next week as well, the next game. But I suppose that takes us on to the under-16 boys, and I suppose really, like I was saying, I was talking to you there over the weekend. Without Joe Button, obviously he got a knee injury there playing soccer there during the week. Be without him for a couple of weeks, but I suppose the one there's still huge positivity from. The lads playing in the All Ireland final there as well. Like, they might have lost and disappointed, but they would have learned from that. And they can take that back into basketball performances as well. Resilience and perseverance. The positives, and say, right, if they fall behind, it's the experience that they gain for that they can bring into the coming game. So how did they get on at the weekend?
They had no game now last weekend, but they're still training. They were down there last night, Tuesday, and I think the thing with the boys is I see them in school, when I meet them in the halls, and they're asking me about, the games in the NBA that happened the previous night, or they're asking me if I'm coming down training with them, or they're asking me can they get into the hub for shots. So the big thing with that group of boys is they just want to play. They want to get in the gym at every opportunity. They're always asking, oh, can we play a friendly against the under-19s and all this stuff. So
That's great, isn't
the
it?
big thing with it never feels like, you're never chasing players to get into the gym with them. It's just, you could say, I could mention to one of them that I might be free for a shoot around after school, and then I'll
Yeah,
have 20 lads coming back to me saying, oh, we're going to the gym after school. So
that's great.
yeah, there's just it's a hunger and desire not to win anything in particular, but it's just an enjoyment of the game and playing the game, and that's something that's great to see. Like you mentioned, after losing an All Ireland final, you might expect players to be like, oh, leave it for a few weeks, or that's enough for this year. But they've wanted to get in the gym even more since, So, and
It's
obviously
nearly
they still
like an
have their
element
club.
of we want to put it right. It's like, yeah, isn't it? Right? The
Yeah,
lost to get in the All Ireland final. Now they want to say, right, now we're going to put this right, and it's not going to happen again at club level, or we say next year
yeah,
if they get that far as well.
yeah, definitely. And I think they've got the bike now. Like they obviously had a great year in second year competition last year, another great run this year at under 16, and a lot of them have only played for 2 years,
Mm,
so a lot of them are very new to the game, so, and they've just got they've seen what some of their teammates can do, they've seen some of the opposition they come up against, and they've just got the bug for it, and they want to get better. All the boys were down at our men's game on Saturday night, and sure, Jesus, after the game, I have to go around and clear them out of the gym. I have to turn half the lights off and try and run them.
yeah.
And it's nearly a shame that you have to try and get them out of there. So, yeah, so it's great. They're just and now they're enjoying it. There's no
Mm.
big pressure on to win games now. There's no nobody's organising or pulling or dragging to try and cancel a football match or miss a soccer match to get to basketball training, because the big thing for this season is kind of over. But with that being said, they still just want to get in the gym, and it's great to see. And that's how you get better, really, is to want to play the game and not be forced to, play the game. They want to play it, they want to get better, and long may it continue.
That's it. Well, listen, thanks very much for taking the time out to do CASTLEREA Cavaliers basketball podcast with us, and we look forward to talking to you again next week.
Thanks, Aidan. Thanks a million. I'll just mention the sponsors quick. Again, this week, McGorty's Bar on Main Street are a big supporter of us, so we thank them for all their sponsorship for the year. Our outfitters of our jerseys, Cahill Super Value on Main Street, and Harmac Medical for the women's team. Thanks to those guys for looking after us with our kits. Bastion Kitchen on St. Patrick's